Assalamu alaikum, welcome back to another video. As you can see, this video is about atheism. I have a deep hate for atheism. It is such a illogical belief, but it postulates as the epitome of logic, right? Their beliefs are just laughable and they seem to like misconstrue everything. Um, and the thing is, it is so hard to find them proving their beliefs, right? Proving that God isn't real. Uh, they always want you to prove to them that God is real, which is, it's an impossibility. If you could prove that God is real, there will be no kufar, right? Everybody will be a Muslim. If there was a proof that everybody would like accept, oh wow, okay, God is real, oh, I better become a good Muslim. If there was such a proof, everybody will just lose their free will, right? In any case, it's funny to me that there is so few proofs that they provide for the non-existence of God, right? Like looked through several of these links, and it's mostly like BS, right? Just stupidity. I came across this website, Beris.nl, Netherlands, and Joop Beris. It's a nice website. I like the website honestly. It has a clean design. I don't know. Is this like WordPress? I don't think it is. This looks like Markdown or something. It's very well made. I like it. I like the design. But what I don't like is the arguments. They are stupid. I read through them like quickly to see what's the 9 logical reasons why there is no God. Like what can they be? And it was yeah, it's very illogical, and I'm gonna point them out. So in this video, we're gonna look through these reasons and answer them to this Yop, or whatever he's called, so he can understand where he went wrong. We can skip this. This is irrelevant, honestly. Here he's defining God. Like before he even began, he started defining what God is. And I agree with. He says that God is omniscient, like he knows everything, right? He knows everything that's happening. He's omnipotent. He can do anything he wants. Uh, Omnipresence, he's everywhere. No, I disagree. In knowledge, he's everywhere, not in being. Omnibenevolence, so he's all good, which Muslims don't believe. This is like a Christian belief. I don't even think Jews believe this, right? Because if God is all good, he can only be good. He only has one attribute, then, right? He cannot punish. He cannot give you tests, etc. He cannot let you get hurt, etc. So obviously Muslims, we don't believe in this. So he's from the beginning, he's already defining God from a Christian perspective, which is like illogical because you're trying to disprove God, not disprove Jesus, right? I mean, their version of what they believe is God, Jesus. I mean, like, the entirety of the article is like it's all about Christianity. um, yeah. So he hasn't taken this seriously, but let's see how logical his reasons are. So reason 1: contradictions between the major religions. Okay, like you're gonna start off like bad when this is the first reason. He says there are several contradictions between the major religions that make them incompatible with one another. It's beyond the scope of this article to do a comparative analysis of the world's major religions, but let's name but a few. So he names Christianity, Islam, and Judaism. He says Christianity says that Jesus is God incarnate. Like obviously Muslims disagree with this. A claim which Judaism and Islam do not accept. Yes, in Judaism, Jesus is a false prophet. In Islam, he's a prophet, but not the final one. So he got this one right. So kudos to him. Islam teaches that the Prophet Muhammad provided the world with God's final revelation, which neither Judaism or Christianity accepts. This is false. The Jews and Christians at the time of the Prophet ﷺ, they accepted the Prophet as the last messenger, and they became Muslims. That's why there is no Christians or Jews that accept the Prophet ﷺ, because if they accept him, they will have to follow Islam. So because the reason they haven't they still exist is because they haven't accepted, right? So the ones that have accepted, they're Muslims now. Those that didn't accept, they're the ones that remain. There are many contradictions and incompatibilities between the major religions, not to mention within them. Christianity alone has more than 100 denominations, all with slightly different ideas and interpretations. It should make one wonder that if there really is a single omniscient, omnipotent, and especially omnipresent deity, how come the world's religions aren't more compatible? I mean, come on, what kind of a question is that? You have to then believe as well that God is going to make everybody constantly follow the religions. Like, obviously, God has sent like lots and lots of prophets, right? So it is not up to God, it's up to the people. We have free will, right? So we have free will. The people, they keep changing their religion, they keep adding stuff, removing stuff. So this is like, how can you fault God for something that people are responsible for? Like, you could only make this argument if there have never been a single prophet, right? Telling the same story overall. Why don't we all believe in the same God? Yeah, it's up to the people. The major religions can't all be true. They are too incompatible. However, logically, they could all be false. Well, that's a huge assumption. Why can't they logically also be all true, and you just haven't defined God properly? This is the logic of atheism. So he goes to a second point. God isn't the same to all. I mean, do I even have to like touch upon this? Yeah, there's nothing here really. He just wants to say that there's different definitions of God. Yeah, so there, I actually like I wonder like, oh, would you make the same argument about, for instance, evolution? Because there have been like several different interpretations of how like beings came to be. Like, yeah, you have the obvious, creation, then you have the evolution, but you also have like beliefs like this, lysenkoism, which basically like destroyed Soviet Union's agriculture and stuff like that. But it was the scientific theory in the atheist Soviet Republic, right? There are others where, like, for instance, animals adapt due to their environment. But in the case, like, for instance, a giraffe, it stretches its neck to get higher leaves, and it like malforms its being, right? Uh, it's its body, it gets malformed, the neck gets like outstretched, so the children are gonna have more outstretched necks. Or that if somebody like loses a leg, then their kids should be born without legs. There are different like theories and what people used to believe. Now, to come back to it, does this mean that like evolution is false because there are different interpretations of how like the human body and how beings change or come to into being, etc., exist? No, obviously he's gonna say evolution is the correct one. So he, as always, like atheism, it's hypocrisy at its finest. Number three, creation isn't perfect. If the universe was indeed created by an omniscient, omnipotent, and especially omnibenevolent deity, so you're like already assuming that God is like all good, which obviously Muslims don't agree with. God is many things. He is good. God is good, but he's not all good. He's not only good. If God was only good, why would he create Satan, right? I think we could expect it to look somewhat different. Such a creator would logically create perfect beings, or at least beings that were optimally designed for their purpose and be without obvious flaws. That is not the situation we find in the world. We find evidence of suboptimal design everywhere, so neither the so so either those things were not designed by God, or the God who designed them was not omniscient, omnipotent, or omnibenevolent. Yeah, you could say that. So, for instance, like like cancer, you could say it's God's fault. Like God doesn't know how to create a being without it getting cancer, right? Or you can say that God wants us to get cancer, so we suffer. Um, right? So that's his, or he's not able to create a being that doesn't get cancer. But that's only because of how he defined God. Like, what if God was all evil, right? So instead of omnibenevolent, it will be like omni evil, right? So God is all evil, then God exists. So why did he like make it so narrow? Only these three. Why, if he's if he wants to disprove the existence of God, right? Why doesn't he like remove all of these barriers that God must be these like these three things, right? But yeah, so let's continue. So the bad design argument. Things that can be interpreted as bad design are, for instance, wings, which are present on flightless birds. So is he thinking of like emus and penguins? Like But this is an argument against evolution as well, right? If evolution is true, why do these birds have wings still when they don't have any function, right? It takes like energy to design the wings. If you have the wing and you, for instance, the animal gets a scrape, gets an infection, it can die. So it's just pointless, right? But obviously these birds, their wings, they have function. Okay, I mean even like the atheists can agree to this, so I don't even understand the argument. For instance, the emus, their wings, it's like they use them when they look for mates, right? They use them to cool down, and they flap with their wings to like cool down the blood in their wings, and it cools down the body. Penguins, they use their wings for swimming, right? So obviously there is point to the wings. So if it doesn't like matter which you believe in, either evolution or design, like the wings have function. Bats have dense bones which are poorly suited for flight. Still they fly, right? So again, this is proof against evolution as well. Speaking of bats, moles, whales, dogs. So he mentions bats twice. Maybe he should like revise this article. Dogs and humans share basically the same bones in the forelimbs. That's an evidence for design, right? That everything looks the same. How is that an evidence against the existence of God? It's like proving design. It's homology. This makes perfect sense if you assume these animals have a shared ancestor or a shared designer. Okay, right? Why do you assume it's an ancestor? But much less so if you think their forelimbs were designed. Why? Is he gonna say why? No, it appears he goes on to something else. But come on, it's homology. They look the same. If so, let's say I buy an iPhone 4, right? And I then a year later buy an iPhone 4S. Am I going to assume that these two phones have nothing in common, although they look the same, they have the same operating system, it says Apple on them? The logical conclusion, according to this atheist, is that these iPhones have nothing in common. Let's continue. Boa constrictors and pythons have small vestigial legs that serve no apparent purpose. Man, I'm sure, you know what? I know where these arguments are coming from, to be honest. This is from Professor Dave's video. I swear to God, it's from Professor Dave's video. Let's see. Like one of these have like plagiarized from the other.
Professor Dave again.
Come on, YouTube. Like one of these have plagiarized from the other, right? I'm not sure who has plagiarized from who. Like these are the exact same arguments. Dog, whale, human, bird. Does he mention bird? No, I think speaking of, well, he mentioned bats twice. I think he was trying to write birds. And then this Professor Dave guy, he goes on to say, I think he mentioned it in the script, right?
Is a word that refers to structural similarities in certain species as a result of common ancestry. Useful to the
Yeah, here are like leg bones in whales, wisdom teeth, wings on flightless birds.
Organism in blind fish, pelvis and leg bones.
Yeah, snakes have pelvic bones. This is literally the article. So, and this was published on 2017, and this was published on 2019. So, yeah, so that's your atheism for you. He has just like watched this video and just like plagiarized it entirely. Oh my god. He couldn't like come up with his own examples to prove it. He's just like spouting what this Professor Dave guy, so-called professor, is saying. Yeah, because he says boa constrictors and pythons have small vestigial legs that serve no apparent purpose. The thing is, like, they don't serve any purpose according to whom. Like, it's no apparent purpose. Who is defining what is a purpose and what isn't? If you were to actually like look this up, you will find that their vestigial legs and like what's it called, the pelvic bones that they have, they serve the purpose of mating and stuff like that. Like the muscles they have are like attached to to the pelvic, right? They have like organs around there that are attached to the pelvic. Anyway, so obviously like they serve some purpose, right? Just because you don't know doesn't mean the purpose doesn't exist, right? Or what to think of the Indonesian babirusa pig that has tusks which can grow to such a length that they pierce the skull of their owners? Yeah, I think I know about this. Yeah, disgusting animals. Look at them. And the atheists will say, delicious. Yes. Is this something that is negative? Right? Obviously, it serves a purpose. Even like people that believe in evolution say it serves a purpose, right? Like let's imagine logically, because this is like this guy wants to say that we should think logically. So logically, these tusks they grow with age, right? So after a certain amount of years, they're gonna pierce the skull of the pig, and it's gonna kill the pig. So obviously, it serves some kind of purpose to kill the pig before it gets a certain age. Why? Because maybe like let's imagine it, they live on an island, there's a limited amount of food, right? So if they are able to like make babies constantly, the food's gonna run out, they're gonna starve to death. Okay, so them like basically killing themselves after a certain age, it appears to serve that purpose to hinder overpopulation. Logically, I don't know if this is true or not, but obviously it's so easy to like disprove, to even like ask the question, okay, is it maybe that it's because that's the purpose? uh, let's continue. Or consider our own species, where the large head of a baby has to pass through a very narrow birth canal. Our inability to produce C vitamin while we depend on it for survival, or the presence of congenital diseases and cancers. How about our jaw, which are now too small to house all our teeth? Okay, let's take this bit for bit. So the point that we have large heads and it's hard for the baby to pass through, that has never actually been an issue. Like it's a complicated topic, right? But a woman, her hips, they depend on what she ate and what she did while she was like a teen, right? How wide her hips are. Obviously, there is also some genetics to it, and if like women have the birth canal is too small to give a child properly, obviously isn't this like an argument against evolution? Because the women that weren't supposed to give births because they had like birth canals that were too narrow are still the women that are alive today. So how does that make any sense, right? So obviously the birth canals are just right for women to give birth. Otherwise, women will never not have an issue to give birth. Now, when you start giving like C sections and stuff like that with modern, in modern medicine, you're gonna mess that up. And if we continue with like C sections, make them more prevalent, stuff like that, in the end, women will not be able to give natural birth because then their birth canals will actually be too narrow. He says our inability to produce vitamin C. Uh, what can I tell you? It's the same thing with energy, right? We don't produce energy. We're not plants. We cannot sit in the sun. So yeah, you need to have some kind of ability to get food from the outside, right? Now, does it matter if you're producing vitamin C if you're not able to like eat food, right? No, it doesn't matter. And obviously, we have always been able to get vitamin C through our food, right? So this is a non-issue. This attacks evolution just as much as it attacks design. No, actually, it attacks evolution more because God can have made us with like with a design that is deficient, right? God didn't say He created us perfect. He created us as we are, and we have our issues, we have our pros, we have our cons, so to say. So we not being able to produce vitamin C, it's like, yeah, so what, right? Or the presence of congenital diseases and cancers. Yeah, this has more to do with like our diet, honestly. But this is also like, doesn't this also disprove evolution again? I mean, come on, if these diseases have always existed, wouldn't we like have bred them out by now, right? Obviously, these diseases are becoming more prevalent, mainly because we are living longer ages, right? But also because we are eating stuff that we didn't used to eat. So, are you going to blame God, for instance, if you eat poison, right? You drink a bottle of poison and then you die, and you say, "Oh, this is God's fault. Why didn't He make me immune to poison?" And many people today, like there's like microplastics in everything we eat. There's like all kinds of compounds that we're eating with food, especially like processed food and like um, packaged food. That is giving us cancers basically. This is a stupid argument, honestly. I don't know what to tell you. This is a stupid argument. I'm at a loss of words. How can you like say that this has to do with the bad design? We weren't designed to eat the food that we're eating today. That's like that's all you can say, right? I mean, even the atheists agree to this. How about our jaws, which are now too small to house all our teeth? Not entirely true. Not entirely true. Our jaws have become smaller because we are eating processed foods. We're eating soft foods. We're eating energy-rich foods, right? Like imagine like 1,000 years ago, if you're sorry, then like no, not even then. I go back to like 10,000 years ago. Like what were you gonna eat? Right? It's gonna be like nuts. It's gonna be maybe like dried meats, right? It's gonna be like stuff that is very hard, and this is gonna form your jaw and let all your teeth, come out. Uh, and you can see today with people eating like lots of like soft foods, especially like babies. They give babies like this wheat and rice mixes that are like cooked, boiled, and they are like very soft. So the children they grow up and like all their teeth are like mangled together. Why? Because they didn't get this like exercise that they're supposed to get with their mouth, which moves like the bones of your face and let your teeth like grow naturally. So this is this is a proof that atheism is wrong, right? Because he would say that we have evolved, we have like this modern diet that we're eating. This is good, this is something perfect, right? But your reason for bad design is the diet that you eat, right? So it's your own fault. He says, cruelty of nature, as Charles Darwin himself wrote, what a book a devil's chaplain might write on this clumsy, wasteful, blundering, low, and horribly cruel work of nature. Nature is often horribly cruel and harsh. The struggle for survival is brutal, and even a small mistake or imperfection can lead to a swift death. A wild beast calf, just days old, being killed by hyenas. Yeah, like, what can I tell you? That's the reality. That's the reality. You dislike this just because you are you have been sheltered your entire life in like this bubble, where you have never even seen like blood. But if you were living in nature right now, if you were living like I don't know, in a jungle somewhere, and you haven't eaten for 2 weeks, and you see a calf, a wildebeest calf, you're gonna strangle it to death with your own hands and bring it back to the tribe, and they're gonna like jubilate. Whoa! You got us a calf. Oh, we're gonna eat meat tonight. So yeah, stupid argument again. This is just a proof that you have been sheltered from the reality of the world. Like all your meat is pre-processed in the supermarket. You don't know what it takes to eat meat in reality. Cats playing with their terrified prey before finally killing it. Yeah, this is a part of play. They're learning how to hunt and stuff like that. This is normal. Or parasitic infections like roundworm. Yeah, this is if this is again evidence against evolution. Why didn't we evolve to not get parasitic infections? Or the Lua Lua eye worm. Don't speak for a benevolent creator. No, it speaks about a creator that created all things. All things have a right to exist, right? Are you gonna say that we should exterminate all the roundworms or all the Lua Lua eye worms? Like, is this your belief? I don't think so. Are you calling for a mass genocide of like other species? I don't think you are, but this is what you're saying. Things are bad, right? But what would life be if we didn't have any challenges, right? If there was nothing to watch out for, nothing to like be, if there was nothing to be worried about, if everything was like set for us, yeah, it's called heaven. You don't live in heaven, you live on earth where we have all these kind of troubles and problems, and we have to like try and survive the best we can. I know that interpreting the actions of animals as cruel is looking at them through a human lens. Yeah, yeah. If you write this, I mean, let's see what the rest of the sentence is. But if you write this after you wrote this, you're just like contradicting yourself. Roundworms aren't cruel themselves, yeah. They are simply trying to survive, as is the rest of nature, yeah. However, it is pretty certain that an omnibenevolent creator would not create things that cause such suffering while trying to survive. Such a creator would not create animals or plants that can only survive through the suffering and death of other beings. The fact that there are creatures like that in abundance means that an omnipotent and omnibenevolent creator is highly unlikely. I mean, this talks about like again against evolution as well. If there are so many parasites and stuff, why haven't and diseases and all kinds of stuff, why haven't we like learned to survive? I mean, not every creature is prone to parasites. I mean, like a parasite that can be parasitic for humans will not be parasitic for birds, for instance. So there is an ability to create like this defense against parasites by the body, right? And the question is, if evolution is true, why haven't we like gotten this defense over millions and billions of years? You know, but it doesn't speak anything about a like uh, the God from a realistic perspective, not from this like you know, this caricature of a God he has created, somebody that knows everything, is everywhere, can do anything, and is all good. You know, if you remove the all good from there, all of the things you have said apply, right? He wants to say that God cannot be like, because he's not benevolent, he's not omnipotent either, right? So that's the thing. If you remove the like only benevolence, you can still have all the omnipotent and everything else. He just had to like shim it in there, otherwise all of his arguments wouldn't work. He continues by saying natural disasters. Apart from poor design and the harsh existence of creatures in nature, natural disasters occur with often devastating effects: earthquakes, tsunamis, hurricanes, floods, droughts, and wildfire costs the life of countless of plants, animals, and people. How this is the reconcile how this is to be reconciled with an omnipotent and omnibenevolent creator is unknown. Either you have a god who causes these events for mysterious reasons, a god who allows these events to happen but doesn't intervene, or there is no omnipotent and omnibenevolent creator looking out for us. Yeah, so he says either God lets these things happen and we cannot understand why he does, or uh, God allows these things to happen, but you know, for whatever reason, uh, like he's not omnibenevolent, right? Or there is no omnipotent and omnibenevolent God, right? But this is only from the like caricature you have made. Well, what about a God that, for instance, even from the omnibenevolent design, like if you look at it from the omnibenevolent side, if God lets people like die in natural disasters, and for instance, all these people that died in natural disasters, they get like heaven, right? From the even the Christian perspective, like they get heaven and they're like set for life in heaven. Like they might have been like bad people, but all of them will get heaven if they die in a natural disaster. So why didn't he add this? Like, couldn't he like conjure that up in his mind? He continues and says, none of above. The apparent bad design, the cruelty and harshness of nature, or the devastation of natural disasters are a mystery in a universe without such a creator. We don't need to ask difficult questions about why a benevolent God allows bone cancer in small children. This is the constant argument from atheists, like bone cancer in small children. But what about bone cancer in old men? Why are you an ageist? Um, allow someone to go blind due to a Lua Lua eye worm, or allow someone to drown in a flood. In a natural universe, such events don't require mental gymnastics, but they can be adequately explained as natural phenomena. So you're gonna say that it's fine that children die in bone cancer because it's a natural phenomena? Is this your argument? Now, why would God let these things happen, right? Obviously, if we look at it from a like Muslim perspective, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he has created this world for us. And in this world, there will be challenges, there will be tests, there will be things that will make us ask ourselves, and there will be reasons why you will say, you know what, I cannot come to the belief that there is God because such and such bad things happen. Why would God do this? But God hasn't said you will live on earth and it will be paradise for you. There will be no challenges, there will be no tests. So, for instance, if you are a Muslim, maybe you fast, the fast of Dawood every other day. You pray every fard, you pray every sunnah, etc. You do all your zikr, and then your child gets cancer. Your child of like 5 years gets cancer, bone cancer, and is like dying painfully for years, and in the end, passes away. This is a test for you. So yeah, if your child dies, it will test your faith. And if you have like true piety, true taqwa, you'll accept that yeah, this is the nature of the universe. This is how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created the world. There will be suffering, and I am not exempt from it. And your child, he died as a Muslim, he's in Jannah, you know, he especially for before the age of maturance, right? But then if you look at it from like a secular perspective, I mean a more secular perspective, so without a God, and this is something that I come back to when I talk with atheists. Uh, if we are living in a simulation, right? Because he doesn't really ask this question here, but this is a very important question to ask. If we are living in a simulation, right? Does it matter what kind of God there is? Obviously the person or God or whatever created the simulation, he controls the simulation, and he might add people in the simulation to test you. So this can be like a personal simulation for you, like if you have seen the Truman Show, that movie. So this entire simulation is created just for you, and like nothing is like real. Like the people don't have souls; they are only like programs, robots, whatever you want to call them. And this child, like it's not a real child, but the person in charge of the simulation, maybe even you, right? You're the one that created the simulation and went in. It's just to see how you will react. What will you do, right? So obviously there are many answers to this question. Why, for instance, children die of bone cancer and natural disasters and all of this, which you can answer logically. So like with the simulation hypothesis, right? You can ask it without even the existence of a god, and you will give an answer. Obviously, there is something outside of our universe. Even the atheists agree to this; they just don't know what. And he goes on to point 4: God exists before or outside the universe. Most religious people believe that their God is responsible for the creation of the universe. This poses several logical problems for us. For one, when we say universe, we typically mean everything that exists. I mean, yeah, you could define that. Everything that exists within the universe. If a God created the universe, which is the set of all that exists, that must mean that this God cannot be part of this universe. Yeah, logically, right? Because then it would mean that he created himself, not part of the set all that exists. Logically thereof, therefore, this God does not exist. That's not the conclusion that religious people want to draw. To get around this problem, Thomas Aquinas postulated that God is both transcendent and immanent. God transcends the universe, but he can manifest inside the universe as well. This mechanism of how this could work is unknown. However, even if we assume that this is true for a second, the problem doesn't stop there. Like, again, if you come back to like simulation theory, if the person that created the simulation, so imagine it like a game, like a GTA server, right? He can enter with an avatar, like a character. Like we Muslims, we don't believe this. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is too magnificent to be like part of the creation, right? But we are talking about like the real form. Now, how do we as like Muslims describe this? Like all we need to say is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he's about the creation, he's about the throne, right? He's outside the creation, he's not part of the creation. Okay, he's not part of the creation. And that's all you really need to know. What it means, etc. I mean, not even Christians can explain what was before time, because they also believe there was a time before space, etc. They also don't know what was there. So that's if they can explain it, then we will also try to explain it. If he says causality, if this hypothetical God exists as a transcendent being outside of space and time, outside of our universe, how do we distinguish this state from not existing at all? There is nothing known to us that has such qualities, and nothing that would allow us to find such things either. It is difficult to imagine how a being so vastly removed from our reality could be the one causing our universe to exist, to actively create it even. Causality only makes sense in the framework of space-time. An action provokes a reaction, cause and effect. You can only have a cause with an effect if there is a spatial and temporal connection between the two. Yeah, so this is like the Aristotelian thought, like there has to be a action that initiated it, right? Again, this only works like he says in space-time. If you're outside of space or outside of time, can you even like imagine what that means? Nobody can imagine what that means. And obviously, space and time are created, so God is outside space and time. Even if we're like assuming that God is just a being in a fourth dimension, so he can move through time, right? Through like space and time can move freely, right? We're gonna give the atheist something to think about. So if God was in the fourth dimension, he could move through time, like forward and backwards. Then the time is like a circle, right? You can go at any point in the circle. So it defeats his entirety of the logic, like the entirety of his argument, that you need a causality. Like we cannot even imagine what that means. That something is like transcendent above time, can move freely throughout time, because that would mean that something can. The only logical thing is that it must have existed forever, right? How it came to being, etc. We don't know because this is beyond what we can even imagine. He says, no time. Time is part of our universe, the set of all that exists. If so, then before there was a universe. I mean, you could say that there can be time outside of our universe as well, if we even can like understand it. There was no passage of time. With no passage of time, nothing can happen, because for something to happen, time has to pass. If this is so, that means that the hypothetical God outside of our universe is stuck. That would be yeah. What do you even can you imagine like a space without time, right? And then imagine something that doesn't have space or time. You cannot imagine what that means. But like even from his own argument, this would mean that the Big Bang can never happen, right? The Big Bang can never happen because there was no space, there was no time. So there was no time for the Big Bang to happen. So the Big Bang cannot happen. So we don't exist. Without the passage of time, this God is impotent. How is this God going to make a decision to create a universe, let alone create one? You're assuming that God is bound by time. Like this is your only argument. Like, can you prove that God is bound by time? Can you have a God that is not bound by time? Obviously, because time is a creation and God created everything. So logically, God cannot be bound by time. To make a decision, you require the passage of time. Yeah, if you are human. There has to be a moment before the decision is made, a moment for making the decision, and yeah, it's all BS, honestly. So the thing with these like Aristotelian like logic and stuff, you see with these like Ash'aris and the Mu'tazila, etc. And like Thomas Aquinas, these Christians that try to like prove that Jesus was God, etc., because it was so illogical. The issue with all of this logic is that you are humanizing God. You're making God a human, right? Because if you can make this box of logic and you can put the entirety of God inside of the box of logic, you have made God's capabilities the same as a man's, right? The same as a human's. So obviously you cannot understand the concepts of God. If you could understand God, God is a human. That's like the best way to put it. So all of this thinking about where God is and how this all works, etc. As you can see, it leads to atheism, because like these kinds of arguments. I mean, this is like the same kind of things that that Asharis will say, etc. So it's best to like stay away from this. As you can see, it's illogical because it creates contradictions not only for like the existence of God, but also for the existence of the universe. Because you're assuming there has always been time. How can you assume there's always been time? To my knowledge, atheists say there was no time and no space, and both like time is linear. Space, I don't know if they still believe it's linear. They have changed it up a bit. But if time is linear, there has to be like a start and maybe an end, right? But it cannot go like in a circle as if it was a four-dimensional being. Like we don't live in the fourth dimension, so time has a beginning. It cannot have always existed. he goes to the problem of evil. I mean, this is not even a problem. I don't know if I should even touch on that. Um, I can tell you at once, the problem of evil only works if you believe in a omnibenevolent God. If you don't believe in an omnibenevolent God, the problem of evil is not a problem; it's just evil. And if you believe in an omni-evil God, or omnibenevolent, right? Omni-malicious, omnibenevolent. Then the problem of evil is the proof for God, right? So it's a stupid argument. It only works on Christians. Uh, he has Sam Harris here. Okay, so Sam Harris says, I would challenge anyone here to think of a question upon which we once had a scientific answer, however inadequate, but for which now the best answer is a religious one. Um, like maybe the support for Israel. You used to have like after the fall of Germany, right? After the fall of Nazism, they used to say that we need to create a state for the Jews out of secular reasons, so the Jews can be safe. Now they have changed it up. Now it's for the sake of because they are religiously Jews, not because they're ethnically Jews, because it's like evangelicals have taken over. So you have to support Israel because it says so in the Bible. But Sam Harris, Sam Harris is a Jew, by the way, and he says this is his beliefs. He wants a nuclear first strike on the Muslim world. So he has like talked about nuking nuking the Middle East many times, and he has continued on that, like nuking the Kaaba. أعوذ بالله filthy kafir. But yeah, so if you're gonna use him as like an evidence for anything, bro, it's like literally using Hitler, right? Like Hitler, he also said the same thing, but to other people said, let's gas the Jews. We need to gas the Jews, right? And he says, let's nuke the Muslims. We must nuke the Muslims, right? So this is the state of the morality in atheism. So let's see. Part 6 is, sorry, reason 6 is there is no proof for the existence of God. I mean, should I even touch on this? There is also no proof for the non-existence of God. Like you haven't given us proof either. You have given us like suggestions, right? Right? Reasons. It's not that this one definitive proof that God doesn't exist. It's like these are the reasons I don't believe God exists. So obviously you also haven't proven anything. So this is like a tie. And like I said, if there was one singular proof that proved the existence of God, maybe even like the truth of Islam, one single proof, there will be no reason to disbelieve, right? There will literally no reason to disbelieve. Everybody will become Muslim. Why? Because they know, okay, God exists, then hell and heaven is real. Why would you disbelieve and go to hell for the eternity, right? You know you're going to spend an eternity there being like suffering. So obviously, if there was a singular proof, everybody will become Muslim. There is no free will. So obviously, there will never be a definitive proof for the existence of God. Yeah, so this is a nonsensical argument, and I mean this works in every religion. If there was a singular proof for the existence of God or the truth of that religion, one singular proof, or maybe even 10 proofs, but they prove like definitely that this religion or this God is true, right? Then nobody will be an atheist or a Satanist or nothing else. Like, why would you? You have to be like insane to say, "Oh no, I'm gonna worship Satan, even though I know I'm gonna be like tortured forever for the rest of eternity." No. So let's go to point 7. Our knowledge of God isn't improving. Okay, from as far back as we have writing that we've been able to read, we see evidence of humanity trying to understand the divine. Theology, the study of the divine, is a academic subject in which people can obtain a degree. I mean, this is like the same argument as there are so many religions. How can you know which one is true? There are so many different definitions of God. How can you know which one is true? Yeah, obviously, like in Islam, we studied the Sunnah, we studied the Quran, right? We try to increase our own personal knowledge of God, right? Try to understand God as much as we can. But that doesn't mean that everybody has the definitive understanding of God. Like I said, if you have if you are able to put God in a human box, then like you're thinking of a human God then. uh, people have all kinds of interpretations. That's why there's like the Asharis and the Attaris and the Mutazilites and all kinds of sects have coming up, trying to like explain the attributes of God, the reasons for why God did things, etc. And nobody will ever be like 100% correct. It's literally impossible. Yes, but let's say, let's continue here. He says, if, however, there really was a God who is omnipresent and who wishes us to know about him, why has our understanding of this God not improved over time? I mean, I would say it has, right? How many prophets has God sent? Like, so many prophets, it's literally uncountable, like thousands or maybe millions of prophets, right? Throughout time. No more prophets now. And now we have only Islam, right? This is the last religion from God. The religion that God has uh, ordained for humanity, okay? That he has accepted as, okay, this will be your religion. Obviously, all the other people before were also Muslims because they were following what God told them, but I'm speaking about Islam as it is known today by the non-believers, right? So we know like everything that God wants us to know, you know, about him. It's in the Quran, it's partially in the Sunnah, right? And he asks, "Well, why are we still none the wiser about God's motives?" I mean, that's just because you're ignorant, right? You're ignorant. You haven't studied all the religions. Like from his atheist perspective, you haven't studied all the religions. Maybe the truth is in Buddhism. Have you studied Buddhism? Maybe the truth is in Hinduism. Have you studied like all of the Vedas and all the other filthy scriptures they have? No. Obviously, the truth is in Islam, in Quran. And there is like limit to how much knowledge God wants us to know, right? Uh, if he wanted, he could have told us everything. It could have been like so much information that is like beneficial for us that everybody will become Muslim, right? But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he has only told us so much as we need to know for us to remain Muslims, right? But not enough so that everybody becomes a Muslim, because this life, this dunya, it's a test. It's a challenge. So if you want to know about God, you have to study, you have to learn, you have to ponder, you have to think. And he says, ever since humanity applied the scientific method to the subject we wish to study, our understanding of it has grown. We now know more than ever before about geography, cosmology, sociology, and or history. Perhaps that's because these academic subjects actually exist and don't have to be assumed to exist. Like the genders, like the 99 billion genders or whatever, how many there are. Yeah, all those genders exist, right? Or that Jews have higher IQs than all the Gentiles. Obviously, uh, all of the tests are made by Jews, but don't assume bias. That's anti-Semitic. Yeah, so I mean, stupid argument. Stupid argument. Obviously, there is a science of God. You know, it's called Islam. You study it. You study the Quran. You study the Sunnah. You haven't studied, so how can you know? Yeah, let's continue. The vastness of the universe, point 8. I mean, this is such a stupid argument, man. I too used to like fall for this when I didn't have as much iman, right? Like, why is the universe so big? If the universe is so big and Earth is so small, like we're not even that important, right? Um, but let me ask you, how many times have you been to the moon? How many times have you been to the moon? Have you been to Mars? Have you been to another star system, another galaxy, maybe even a galaxy cluster? No, you can't even see them. So the vastness of the universe, it's a spectacle, right? It's something to make you ponder and wonder and think. It's not something you will ever go and see. Okay, this is something that has like made a lot of people, like these atheists, become like ever since we got better like telescopes and stuff like that, because before this like you could hardly like see the planets, right? uh, and people didn't even know what the stars were. I mean, like Neptune, it was like found maybe like 150 years ago or something like that, and it is in our own star system. Same thing with Pluto, right? Well, and ever since we got like better telescopes, these atheists, they have become like extremely entrenched in their kufr. And this is thanks to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Now I'm planning on like a larger video about atheism, and especially like a simulation theory and how like this simulation hypothesis, how it disproves the entirety of atheism. And in this example as well, like okay, the universe, it's so large, okay, you will never be able to travel it, like not because it's just so large, but because it's also expanding. And you can never travel faster than light, because if you travel faster than light, then you're going back in time. The only way like you can imagine to travel is like with some wormhole technology or something like that, where you're like moving only through like space faster than light somehow, which is all sci-fi. It's all stories. It's all like fables. It's not possible. And even if it was possible, theoretically, it will require such amounts of energy that it's impossible. So in short, the vastness of the universe, it's not an argument for anything. It just proves like how soy boy you are. Like, oh wow, have you seen the blue dot? We are not important. Yeah, like the universe is so large. I mean, even we Muslims, we admit it. Yeah, the universe is large, very large. So where are all the other people? Where are all the other civilizations? We haven't seen one single civilization out there. And I'm not talking about like seeing them with our naked eyes and stuff like that. But even that will be possible. Like if a civilization reaches like if you know about the Kardashev scale, if a civilization reaches like K3, right? So they can harvest all of the energy in their galaxy. Uh, the entire galaxy will go dark, right? It will be black on the sky, but you will see like this huge cluster of infrared energy, of infrared radiation, right? And we don't see any such clusters, meaning that there is no advanced civilization out there. And this is like it was thought when we got like better technology, we'll be able to like see billions of these you know galaxies just radiating infrared radiation, because there is a civilization there that has like captured all of the energy in the universe, uh, all of the energy in the galaxy there. But we haven't seen that. We are not even like a type 1 civilization according to the scale, because we need to access all the energy available on the planet. Type 2 is like the entire solar system. Yeah, so the entire star. And type 3 is the entirety of the galaxy. And even then, like if you're gonna travel in the galaxy, it will take like hundreds of thousands of years to move from one part to the other. It's insane, like time scales. And we have come, like if the atheists are correct, we have come to the we have evolved very late in the existence of the universe. There must be like at least millions of other species out there that have at least reached the K2, right? That they have harvested their sun for energy. But we don't see any of that out there, so it's all just fables. And just saying that the universe is large, yeah, if you are in a simulation, it will also be a large universe, right? And there are like aspects of our universe, like the inverse square law, etc., that that points towards being a civilization. But that's something I will touch upon in another video. So point 9, logical problems with the attributes of God. So let's see. So this is the last point. So let's see if this is any better. There are logical problems with the attributes of God as well. As you'll remember, the attributes mostly attributed to God by the three major monotheistic religions are omniscience, omnipotence, omnipresence, and omnibenevolence. But Muslims don't believe in omnibenevolence. I think Jews don't either believe in omnibenevolence, and the early Christians also didn't believe in omnibenevolence. I mean, the Bible itself talks like against it, right? I mean, look at the God in the Old Testament, like killing all of these people which he created, etc. So yeah, this is like a heresy of like from the earlier Christianity. They didn't believe this, and this came later, with the idea that like God absolved everybody of their sins, right? Stuff like that. He says superfluous attributes. The first and mostly minor objection is that some of these attributes are superfluous. For instance, omnipotence actually includes omnipresence. So knowing that everything happens is the same thing as being there. Yeah, I would say that's true. But this is because it's also a heresy. Like, how can you say that God is everywhere, like physically everywhere? This is like Christian belief. This is like the Holy Spirit, right? And Muslims don't believe this. So this is all again. He's arguing against Christianity, not against God. An omnipotent being will be able to be everywhere at the same time. The same can be said for omniscience. So really, the only attributes we would need are omnipotence and omnibenevolence. So omnipotence, like being able to do everything and being all good. Um, no, you will still need omniscience. How can you be omnipotent? And what a stupid argument, bro. If you are omnipotent, uh, you can do whatever you want, right? You can create whatever, etc. But it doesn't mean that you know everything, right? It just means you can do everything. You will have to then create your omniscience to be able to know everything again. So it's okay. Obviously, he has misunderstood this. Well, let's. This is such a stupid take. Let's go with problems with omniscience. Another problem with these attributes is perhaps more serious. They appear to be logically inconsistent. Take, for instance, the attribute omniscience. This is usually thought to mean that God knows everything. If God knows everything, that means that he also knows what happens in the future. If that is true, that means that the future is fixed and unchangeable. Not only does this mean that we humans are unable to make our own choices, it also means that God himself cannot make his own choices, or at least not change the choices he's going to make. Uh, there are more problems with omniscience. Certain knowledge can only be obtained by experience. For instance, you can only find out what it feels like to commit an evil act by actually committing an evil act. An omnibenevolent God is unable to commit evil acts, as by definition, this God would not know what it feels like to commit evils, and so cannot be omniscient. Yeah, but evil by whose definition? Like, is it evil to punish someone? Make somebody like, burn alive as a punishment? Is that evil? What if that person was evil himself? Like, is the act good now? Like, you cannot even answer that question. Like, if somebody let's say like the Nazis, they gassed 6 million Jews, right? If somebody gassed him back, like his punishment was to be gassed. Like in Islam, the concept of qisas, eye for an eye, tooth for a tooth. Will that person being gassed, his execution being done by gas, will that be evil? By your definition, it will be evil, right? I wouldn't say it's an evil act. I mean, if you're going to execute him, does it really matter what way, as long as he's not suffering, you know, throughout it? Except if the way he killed somebody was through suffering, I would say that's justified, right? But his idea here that you don't have free will, right? So if God knows everything, he knows what happens in the future, you don't have a free will. How is that logical? You only assume, like, all atheists believe in the I mean, okay, maybe not all atheists, but most atheists believe in the believe in the so-called multiverse, right? Like there are parallel universes, and everything that can ever happen happens in one of the universes, right? So they're like uncountable amount of universes, and this only like belief came to being because they couldn't explain how the Big Bang happened. So they said there are like infinite amount of like possibilities, and in some of these possibilities the Big Bang happened, in others nothing happened, etc., etc. And to also explain like the laws of nature, why they are so fixed, etc. They came up with this like fable, this this night bedtime story, right? But if even like as a atheist, you will then have to say, yeah, okay, it makes sense that, for instance, God knows every possibility because everybody has like choices. So you're gonna eat a fruit, or you're gonna eat a banana or an apple. God knows what will happen if you eat a banana. God knows what will happen if you eat apple. I mean, like in the future, right? Does that mean that you don't have free will? No, I wouldn't say so, right? You have free will. You are the one choosing. It's not God choosing. God just knows every possibility of what you will choose. Now, obviously, as Muslims, there is no proof for the multiverse, right? We know that God created different heavens and earths. Now, what that means, we don't know specifically. It could mean that there are other universes, but we cannot make that assumption. But this atheist, he will have to agree that, yeah, uh, it is possible that you have still free will, and the only thing that God knows is like all the possibilities depending on the actions you're gonna take, not that he like controls your actions. Problems with omnipotence. That brings us neatly to omnipotence. If God is both omnibenevolent and omnipotent, is it possible for this God to commit an evil act? If yes, he is not omnibenevolent. If no, he cannot be omnipotent. This is similar to the stone paradox, where we ask the question, can God create a stone that is so heavy that he cannot lift? I mean, again, you're humanizing God. Whatever your answer to this question is, it will mean that there is something God cannot do, effectively proving the omnipotence is not possible, at least not any more than you ask this question. I mean, this is such a stupid question, right? That's like telling him, this person, like, can you draw a square circle, right? Like, what does that mean, a square circle? Like, obviously, you cannot draw a square circle. Either you draw a circle or a square, right? But and this is the same question: can God create a stone that he cannot lift? Obviously, God is like omnipotent. So, what will it mean for him not be able to lift it? It's a logical contradiction. There's like no point to even answering this because it's illogical, right? And like I said earlier, regarding like can God commit an evil act? Like God is not omnibenevolent. For God doesn't commit evil acts because God is good, right? But He does not stop others from doing evil acts. For instance, you being an atheist, that's evil, that's satanic. God doesn't stop you from being an atheist, right? Does He? They believe that God can commit evil acts. So again, only if you believe in an omnibenevolent God. So again, you're arguing against like Christianity and like this specific offshoot of Christianity. Like not even every Christian believes that God is omnibenevolent. Muslims don't believe that, Jews don't believe that. So you're like only arguing against like this specific sect of Christians. Could you not have answered the question if God was omnimalicious? Yeah, let's say omnimalicious, right? If God was omnimalicious, this entire argument like falls flat on its face. The question is like, can God do good acts then? We continue. The problems with omnipotence doesn't stop there. If we ask it to mean that God can do everything he wants to, does that mean he can do the impossible? Can God create a light that is both on and off at the same time? Can he create a stationary moving object, or can he make it so that 2 plus 2 equals 5? These are logical impossibilities, but are also impossible for an omnipotent God? Question mark. Look, like Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, God, he created, for instance, logic and math. Okay. Um, so if he says that 2 plus 2 equals 5, it will be like the answer to this, it will not be logical. It will be true, but it will not be logical, right? And these are like examples he gives. God can create, but will we understand it? Will we be able to understand it? Like even if we see it with our eyes, will we be able to understand it? I don't think so. So this is, but again, like it doesn't matter. Like, can he define what it is he wants to see, right? Can you define what you're expecting? What kind of results you're expecting? Maybe this, that 2 plus 2 equals 5, but how will that add up? Like if you cannot even understand the question, how can you put the question forward, right? Because you don't know what kind of results you're expecting. It's a stupid. It's like these logical gotchas, right? This only like applies within our universe because you still will have to like humanize God. You will have to say that he's part of creation, so he has the limitations of the creation, which obviously isn't true, right? So what does it? It's illogical for us. We cannot understand it. But in any case, you're putting like again you're putting God in this like human shaped box and saying that these limitations apply to him. Like you don't even understand the question. How can you understand if the answer, like if you cannot understand the question, how will you understand the answer, right? It's nonsensical. Like this will never be a proof against God or a proof for God because we don't understand it, right? How will you even understand it? Let's continue with omnibenevolence. We've already touched upon this problem with omnibenevolence above when speaking about the problem of evil. Why will the world created by an omnipotent and omnibenevolent God have so much pain, misery, and suffering? Yeah, it only works if God is omnibenevolent, right? While these may appear to be simple questions, they have been a matter of debate for theologians and philosophers for centuries. Yeah, Christians. There are no easy answers to the problems with divine omniscience, omnibenevolence, omnipotence. It's like all of this is BS, honestly. This guy, he's like arguing against the like this specific sect of Christianity. Do you think like the problem with omnibenevolence existed during the time of the Greek pagans, right? Like they believe that their water god, what was it called? Was it Neptune? Maybe it was Neptune. He like the reason he made the ships crash into the shore and like all the people die was because he was in the mood for it, right? So like this, the problem with omnibenevolence, it like only exists in this like specific offshoot of Christianity, but it doesn't work with anybody else. Let's see the conclusion. This concludes my 9 logical reasons why there is no God. Yeah, like logical? Come on. I think I have successfully shown that it is possible to prove a negative. Have I also managed to successfully prove that God of the major monotheistic religion doesn't exist? Well, that depends on how you interpret the meaning of proof. Bro, where is your fedora? And how you define God? Yeah, where is your fedora and your katana? Did I prove beyond a doubt that a God of some sort doesn't exist? No, I don't think I have. I mean, you admit it in the conclusion. Oh my god, bro. Oh my god, bro. However, looking at the logical problems regarding the attributes typically associated, typically associated with God, for the 3 major monotheisms, I think that a reasonable person. I mean, how can you say that Judaism is one of the 3 major monotheisms? There are like Sikhism. Sikhs are like there are millions, like 100 million Sikhs or something, right? And Jews are like 12 million Jews. So why don't you like bring up Sikhism? I think that a reasonable person will be justified in concluding that this particular God does not exist, at least not in the way he is generally believed to be. I think that the conclusion to be just as solid as the conclusion that unicorns, pixies, and Santa Claus doesn't exist. Except that these things are like human imagination, right? What do you think? Do you agree with? Do you agree with my 9 logical reasons why God does not exist? If no, why not? Kindly leave a comment below. Let's see what the people say. Former Christian, now I'm agnostic. I find it yeah, this is stupid. I mean, these Christians, they're unable to like they're not able to answer this, right? Maybe I should like post the link to my video here when I upload this. Yeah, I think I'll do that. So yeah, Jupe, Barris, your arguments were illogical. They were like aimed at a very specific subsect of Christians, not aimed at Christians in large and Jews and Muslims as you claimed, because there were not some of these arguments like God is not the same to all. I mean, come on, bro. Creation isn't perfect. Come on. It's all. It was a bit funny as well. Like the problem of evil again. This didn't work on the pagans, right? Doesn't work on the pagans. Doesn't work on like Satanists. Like, can there be a satanic god? Yeah, it can. Obviously, like there's no problem of evil with him. This just proves that atheism, it's like literally Satanism trying to like disprove a good god and aim for like an evil god. Is this dupe, bro? I thought you had a I thought you had a fedora. Isn't it interesting that most of these atheists in modern times they're all Jews? Christopher Hitchens, Sam Harris, probably Richard Dawkins as well. So yeah, that's my I don't know what I'm gonna call it, review review of the 9 logical reasons why there is no God. If you liked the video, you know what to do. If you believe that I was wrong and that these reasons were actually logical, I would like to hear from you in the comments and tell me if I made any mistake or if I misconstrued something. But I'm sure that I gave pretty solid evidence against atheism, and especially since the emergence of like simulation theory, like all of the things that the atheist prove can like be answered through simulation theory, even like even like a secular version of simulation theory. So anyway, thanks you for watching, and yeah, if you disagreed with something, write it in the comments. I'm happy to answer. Bye.